We're going to talk about this turmoil in Turkey, that country's currency plummeting again today. Listen, there's shockwaves going throughout the global emerging markets world because Turkey's central bank vowing that it would provide all the liquidity the bank needs in the face of this crisis. However, we don't know that their president believes in that. In the meantime, take a look at the Dow. We're under a fair amount of pressure this morning. Want to bring in White House Council of Economic Advisors Chairman Kevin Hassett. All right, Kevin, your initial reaction here, because the media is, and to one degree, what I saw over the weekend, suggesting, well, President Trump picks yet another fight.
Right. Well, I don't know if President Trump is picking the fights or if the fights are finding us. But the fact is that there are trade deals all around the world that aren't reciprocal, that aren't fair to the U.S. workers. And President Trump is standing up to try to fix them. And the specific episode with Turkey is, something different, really, right? I mean, so we've increased the tariffs on them through our Section 232 for steel, which is basically an attempt to stop steel dumping by the Turks into the U.S., which President Trump has judged, harms our national security. But interestingly, Section 232 has affected lots of countries. Turkey has seen their lira go just into a collapse when, we notched it up the knobs a little bit with them on that policy. And I think that reflects a lot more troubling fundamentals in that country. So as we've looked around the world, when countries have kind of lost the rule of law, moved away from democracy, then capital tends to want to get out of that country, and that can lead to a currency crisis like we're seeing.
Let's talk about that for a moment, Kevin, because, listen, there are fault lines in all of these countries. Even China has a tremendous amount of fault lines, debt to GDP approaching 350%. They've got a credit crisis that's really tremendous. We saw a major capital flight out of China for a long period of time. Same thing with Russia. We saw how quickly Russia's stock market collapsed. Could we actually push this to the point where we trigger some economic collapse around the country, around the world, rather, that were unintended?
Well, really, in the end, that's going to be up to our negotiating partners. And I'm sure you were heartened to see that the Europeans came to the U.S. and Juncker met with President Trump, and they had a really good deal to offer, which President Trump was really eager to accept. That it was the first time I can remember, really, in trade negotiations that a president had delivered a deal that was really good for American workers. It was symmetrical, that treated their stuff just like the way they treat our stuff. And that's a huge win for President Trump's approach. And so the question is, I was in Japan last week talking to Japanese officials about what the Europeans had done. And the question is, does that become a model for reasonable countries around the world to move rather quickly to the vision that President Trump has given us of lower tariff barriers and free and fair and reciprocal trade? I think that it's pretty likely that that's going to happen with most countries. But the question then arises when you have countries that, like, take an extreme case, Venezuela, where the rule of law just seems to be gone. Those kind of countries are going to be a lot more factors involved than just trade.
Well, they've crossed the Rubicon, right? I mean, they have a different set of desperation, I think, there than these other nations that we're trying to negotiate with right now. Before I move to maybe ask about what the template will look like for resolution with all these countries, I want to go back to Turkey for a moment, because the wild card there appears to be Pastor Brunson. What role does his release play, and perhaps sanctions relief from this administration?
Well, that's a foreign policy issue, and I'm just an economic advisor. I can tell you that the section of the code, Section 232, that we used to ramp up the steel tariff has nothing to do with the pastor. But I know that people are talking about a number of factors with the Turkish government. The Secretary of State and the Secretary of Treasury, I think, are in constant contact with Turkey, trying to help them work it out. But as an economist, I can say what I'm most looking for, and this is something you guys were talking about just before I came on, is for Turkey to come forward with a plan about what they're going to do to stop the collapse of their currency. It's very common, there's a playbook. You could almost call Bill Belichick and say, okay, we'll take number 3 and put out a play, say, here's what we're going to do, and then it would calm markets and stop the fall of the currency. I guess there's word that they might come out with a plan today when we look forward to seeing what might be in that.